12 hours later, my wife was preparing for an evening date with another man, nonchalantly instructing me to accept the situation. I remained silent, smiling subtly, as she had no clue about the contents tucked away in her purse. This is a tale of a woman who erroneously thought she had outsmarted me, only to realize she was walking into a self-constructed trap. The bedroom was filled with the sharp, costly aroma of a perfume I never purchased for her, an unfamiliar scent that seemed like an intruder in our shared home of 12 years. I stood in the doorway, observing Sarah meticulously apply vibrant red lipstick, displaying the assurance of someone who had rehearsed this moment numerous times. She overlooked one basic truth. A man who comprehends the rules also knows precisely when and how to exploit them, especially when a flawed system needs to crumble. By 11 p.m., alerts concerning an extensive internal security sweep at one of the city's leading investment firms started appearing on business news feeds. In that instant, it became clear that Robert's night wouldn't conclude in a lavish room, but rather with handcuffs. Silently, under the stillness of the night, I started gathering my possessions. Unlike Sarah, I wasn't abandoning turmoil. I was reclaiming my existence. I moved deliberately through the rooms we had adorned together, feeling strangely disconnected from the furniture and framed portraits, as if they were movie set props left behind. Sarah had been consumed by her concern for appearances. How our life seemed to the neighbors, how immaculate it appeared on her social media. While she attended to superficial matters, I was the one who fortified the structure beneath. When she embarked on an affair and I didn't resist, she believed me to be feeble, another casualty of her allure. In truth, I was merely an engineer anticipating the imminent rupture, a secret pact, discarding only what truly mattered, leaving behind the house, a property heavily mortgaged in her name, a debt she had willingly assumed to demonstrate her independence. That very house now served as a gleaming anchor, drawing her closer to financial wreckage. Exactly at 3 a.m., my phone echoed with a call. The voice on the line belonged to Sarah, barely discernible. Her previous air of arrogance was nowhere to be found. Instead, she trembled with fear, her stern tone replaced by a quivering panic. Over and over, she insisted there had been some unfortunate error, that Robert was being detained for something incomprehensible. She pleaded for my legal expertise to resolve the situation, claiming she was being unfairly treated as a criminal for merely being present at an unwelcome location. I remained quiet, listening only to her anxious breathing. My heart remained steady, while hers echoed loudly. Eventually, I responded, informing her there had been no mistake. The evidence against Robert was undeniable, including meticulous records of his spending on her. Reminding her softly, I quoted our earlier conversation upon departing. "It might be best for you to acknowledge it," I confided in her. "I've conceded our marriage has concluded, and I am no longer bound to manage the aftermath of your decisions." A heavy silence fell. The void where her justifications once dwelled became apparent. Then she erupted in a fit of anger, her voice quivering as the bitter truth struck home. The callous husband she had disregarded was now the sole individual who could navigate the labyrinthine legal process she found herself ensnared within. She hurled the insult, "You're a monster." I merely hung up and switched off my phone. For the monster wasn't the man revealing truths. It was the one who believed deceit and pilfered funds could construct a solid future. I strolled to my car, leaving the house keys on the kitchen island, nestled beside a pile of documents that would facilitate the bank repossessing the property in a matter of weeks. While heading towards the state border, the sun ascended, casting golden rays over the deserted highway before me. For the first time in years, I wasn't a phantom in my own house. Instead, I was a man who reclaimed his voice and his destiny. The full weight of everything didn't truly sink in until I was nearly 300 miles away, seated solitarily in a tranquil roadside diner where no one recognized me. On the television above the counter, the morning news played. There was Robert being escorted out of the restaurant in handcuffs, followed closely by Sarah, her face partially concealed behind the designer purse that ultimately exposed everything. The news anchor discussed a large-scale internal whistleblower operation that saved the firm millions. My name was never uttered, precisely as I desired it to be. For 12 years, I served as the unseen foundation for a woman who confused dependability with vulnerability. Now I chose invisibility. And at last, I was liberated. She donned a black silk dress that accentuated every contour, the same attire reserved for our anniversary celebrations in times past. Yet, for the past 6 months since our marriage's vitality seemed to ebb away, she no longer concealed her late hours as work-related. She also discontinued masking the radiance in her eyes whenever her phone signaled messages from the man she opted for over me. During those same 6 months, I subtly morphed into an unseen presence within my own house. Witnessing everything with a composed indifference that she took as feebleness, she assumed my silence equated to surrender. In actuality, it was the quiet reserve of someone biding time for the opportune moment. Sarah glanced at her mirror and offered me a chilly, derisive grin. She sneered, saying I looked pitiful standing there, and I should acknowledge that our lives were drifting apart. According to her, she required someone driven and thrilling, not a man content with the tranquil predictability of suburban living. Every remark intended to elicit my defense for her actions. Yet I remained silent. No fury, no dispute. Instead, I subtly altered my stance and subtly curled my lips into an enigmatic, inscrutable smile that seemed to further irk her rather than any outburst would have. With a brisk snap, she shut her designer handbag, the noise reverberating in the quiet chamber. She was under the impression that she was embarking on a romantic evening and the start of new ventures. What she failed to perceive was that she was carrying the seeds of her own professional and social ruin, tucked snugly within her shoulder strap. The handbag itself had been a present from her paramour, a man named Robert, and unluckily for them both, Robert held a significant stake in the company where I served as a senior compliance officer. What Sarah remained oblivious to was that I had been stealthily monitoring Robert's questionable financial dealings for almost a year, long before he even took notice of my spouse. A consistent pattern of embezzlement had already surfaced. The missing link for my investigation was a proof tying his personal expenses to the company's lost millions. In the morning when Sarah was showering, I inserted an encrypted flash drive into the concealed compartment of her purse. This drive contained copied files from Robert's private accounts and a digital record showing the connection between embezzled corporate funds and his extravagant gifts and lavish vacations intended to woo my wife. I also added a court subpoena in Sarah's name. Since she was unwittingly involved in his lifestyle, the law saw her as a crucial witness or potentially something more serious. Due to the significant benefits she received from Robert's lifestyle, the prosecution refused to drop the conspiracy allegations. Gradually, she was compelled to sell everything: jewels, dresses, and eventually the house. Despite her legal team's efforts, they could only guarantee one thing. She may escape spending the next decade in prison. I later learned through my lawyers that she attempted to contact me on multiple occasions. She alleged that Robert deceived her and maintained that she had always deeply loved me. Her letters echoed the well-crafted phrases she had used for years, but this time they held no sway over me. At last, I had comprehended something crucial. Some individuals only appreciate the worth of light when enveloped by complete darkness. And Sarah now stood within the very shadow she had constructed herself. Eventually, I settled in a secluded mountain town, distance from the corporate rat race and the social advancement that had gradually corroded my marriage. Leveraging my experiences, I established a small consultancy firm aimed at assisting small businesses to safeguard themselves against internal fraud akin to what had ruined Robert's. My life is no longer characterized by passively enduring emotional scraps or standing helplessly in thresholds while being deceived. Instead, I have found something new. A humble abode with a panoramic view of the valley, a dog that genuinely seems pleased upon my arrival, and a compact group of friends who prioritize honesty over superficiality. I discovered what Sarah never did. The monotonous steadiness she once derided was actually my greatest asset. It was precisely what maintained my tranquility and focus while her life spiraled chaotically out of bounds. I am no longer bound by a deceitful marriage. I am identified by the truth I unveiled. I had the fortitude to reveal. The latest news about Sarah was uneventful and nondescript. She was employed in retail within an anonymous city, living in a modest flat, worlds apart from the satin sheets and polished countertops of our past shared life. In the end, she accepted the truth she once advised me to accept, along with the man she chose over me. He transformed into a mere case number within a federal database. To my surprise, I no longer harbor bitterness. It's merely another means of being shackled to the past. Instead, I feel a sense akin to quiet gratitude, grateful for the night she left with the flash drive in tow, as that was the night I transitioned from being a specter into living an authentic life. Now I find peace. The trap I set was never intended to harm her. It was designed to liberate me. As I gaze upon the mountains now, the future appears unobstructed. If you've read this far, I wonder what country you're tuning in from. Also, did you know that over 80% of viewers have yet to subscribe? This narrative managed to keep you captivated. Remember to click subscribe and discover our next gripping tale of infidelity.